What's up, this is Marcus with Machine City Audio. Today we are going to take a look at Arturia's Keylab MK261. Did a video on the Keylab's Essential and setting that up. I also had the S49 controller from Native Instruments. But earlier this year I switched from Native Instruments to Ableton Live, so I needed something that was a bit more compatible with Ableton Live, and that's where the MK2 comes in. Now I want to talk about some features that makes the MK2 stand out, in my opinion, above other MIDI controllers. So the first thing I want to talk about is the overall quality of this thing. When you pull it out the box, it feels more like a heavy synthesizer than an actual MIDI controller. It has a metal casing instead of that heavy, thick plastic that you normally see on most MIDI controllers. Even the pitch bend and the mod wheel has like an aluminum over it, and those feel nice. The overall quality as far as the build and the buttons and the knobs and faders, everything feels nice on this controller. I don't feel like anything was like thrown on here cheaply made. When it comes to the pads, if you used anything of Arturia's that had pads on it, then the pads are no different than that. They feel exactly the same, except for you get 8 more pads on here than you did on the Keylab's Essential. The key bed, in my opinion, is slightly better than what it is on the Keylab's Essential. I don't feel like it's too much better. I feel like the keys maybe are a bit better quality and feel slightly better, but that's about it. It's not a huge difference. But if you want to compare these keys to the S49 from Native Instruments, I have to go with the S49 for having a better key bed than what's on the MK2. The next thing I want to talk about is the DAW control, and this is what sold me on this controller when I actually first started learning about it, is the control that it has with other DAWs. So when you get this, you get these magnetic strips that have whatever DAW of choice you might be using on either side, whether it's Studio One, Ableton Live, Cubase, Pro Tools. But you take these magnetic strips and you put it over the DAW commander section of the MK2, and then it shows you what commands control what in whatever DAW you're using. So I think that's a really great feature to have on there, and one of the reasons why I ended up getting this. Now I also like the way that it integrates with Studio One as well as Ableton Live. When I'm using this with Ableton Live, I can control faders with it. I can also MIDI map certain things. If I want to MIDI map, like using a filter on an EQ or certain things, I can do this on this controller as well. Next thing, in my opinion, is kind of what really sets it over the top. And if you take a look at the back, you have several different connections on the back. So we have MIDI, you have CV if you're using Euro rack gear, you also have for pedals, and you also have some auxiliary connections as well. I feel like that's really taking it to another level. And even when you play this, you feel more like you're playing an expensive synthesizer versus, you know, like a plastic MIDI controller. Overall in all, I had to say that this is a really great, well-built controller. The only thing that is lacking, I feel like, are the keys. The keys aren't as good as I would like them to be. But other than that, I have no complaints. Everything is really nice on this controller. Now, if anyone asks me which is better, this or the Keylab's Essential or the S49, that's a tough one to answer because it all depends on a lot of factors. You know, your budget, what DAW you're using, what do you want out of a controller? All these things are going to play a difference in picking out a MIDI controller. But I will say this, if you're using Ableton Live and Analog Lab, then you might want to consider this controller. All right, so that's all I got for you today. If you have any questions, hit me up. I'll try to answer them the best way I can. And thanks for watching. Peace until next time.